This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. This is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. And that theme song is You're So Vain. And I think it's an appropriate song for today's radio show because, as you know, Rich Dad is about the good news and the bad news. And we're not into the hype, the all good news, and you get rich quick and all that stuff. And today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects is the subject of real estate. And the reason I'm playing the song You're So Vain is I meet so many, idiots who come up to me and say, I think I'll jump into real estate. I'm going, real estate's not the stock market. I bought a couple of properties. I've done, I've bought 4 or 5 properties. I know what I'm doing. I said, were they residential? Yeah, but I know real estate. Remember those guys, Kim?
I remember those. Yep.
So they think real estate is this flip and flop type of activity. So we have some great guests, but first, Kim is now back from Peru and Mexico. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. We had 2 fantastic Rich Woman events. I'll tell you, the Rich Dad brand in Latin America, I had no idea the freneticness and the frenzy, and it's just exploding, and people are looking for education, and they're hungry for real, true financial education.
Yeah, and
it's exciting.
That comes up because what we're going to be talking about, the difference between financial education and financial hype. Like you see them in infomercials every single day, and I watch them. I get excited about them. It's the same formula. You got some guy, I won't mention his name, but he's a new guy. There's always a new guy coming up every year. They come up and they go, and it's the same formula. So you have Joe Schmo, the new guy, good-looking guy, his good-looking wife. They go, da-da-da-da. And the interview, yeah, I had nothing, and I'm now a multi-millionaire flipping real estate. I go, holy moly, and it's the same formula. Everybody wants to get rich quick. And thank God, we've done our best at the Rich Dad Company to avoid that because there's a difference between flipping and flopping and having some hot chick and some hot young guy up there promising you can get rich quick in real estate. And it does happen, I guess, occasionally, but not for the long term because eventually your stupidity will catch you, more your vanity. Yeah, I can do this. I've invested in a couple of properties. I have a master's degree in accounting or something, and they really are so vain. And real estate is a very sophisticated game. So our guests today are longtime friends, probably some of the oldest friends the Rich Dad Company has had. I mean, we were so desperate for publicity that I actually flew to wherever you guys were located and went on the Real Estate Guys radio show. I did my first infomercial or promo or PR event, basically talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So we've been friends for years, and they've now been elevated to the highest category of person at the Rich Dad Company is what Donald Trump says, are they good people? And one of my first things when I met with Donald Trump, he was asking his friends, he says, is Robert Kiyosaki, are they good people? That's all he cares about. And he doesn't check you out beyond that. So if somebody says you're a good person, he'll check you out. But as you know, there's a lot of bad people out there. They will steal from their mother. So anyway, we have Robert Helms and Russell Gray. They're the co-hosts of the Real Estate Guys radio show. And we're going to be talking about the dark side of real estate, but also the good side, because don't we love this game, right?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
So welcome to the program, Mr. Helms.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Gray.
Welcome.
Give us a little of your background. I mean, you guys, congratulations. You guys just won some huge award with Hilton or something, right?
Well, we're doing a lot, and it's, I love the theme of this show because we're all about getting wealthy in real estate, but the quickly part is the challenge. It takes years and years and years to build up a brand, to build up a reputation. Why would it be any different to build up a great stream of cash flow or a great pile of equity? It takes time.
Yep. How many years have you been doing this, Robert?
So the radio show's now its 22nd year,
Wow.
and I've been
What were the
investing
first guys?
You were among the first, our first big get, if you will, when
Yeah.
we were just on one radio station back then. And it's funny, I remember we expected you to call in And our receptionist said, your guest is in the lobby.
Yeah, I was so desperate. I wanted to make sure you didn't cut me off.
And no, it was awesome. We had just finished your book then, right, and couldn't believe it like everybody. And that led to a very long and wonderful relationship we've had. We just always appreciated you guys and your message and your integrity. And
Well,
all
and
of
what
that.
we appreciate about you, Robert and Russell, are that you are the real deal.
You practice
and you
what you
practice
teach.
what you preach. You don't just talk about real estate. You are real estate investors. You're real estate developers, and that is crucial to us because we want real teachers who are doing the real thing, not fake teachers who talk about it but don't do it.
So anyway, this is Robert Helms. How long have you been in real estate? All your life, haven't you?
Pretty much bought my first property when I was 23. I wish I had bought them when I was 18.
And
but,
we wish we had kept it, right?
we
We all wish we had kept all our properties.
In fact, I remember when you're on the summit, we had this panel where we had Ken McElroy and Kim and my dad, and we had all had the same thing in common. We all started with a little 2-bedroom house.
Yep.
And it's like, that's where it starts.
Yes.
You don't have to start with grandeur. Start
Trump
small.
started there too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people swing for the fences today, and that's not
I
the
think
way
you're
to go.
absolutely right. That's one of the myths or one of the mistakes people make is they think they have to go big when they have no experience, no education, and they wonder why they lose money.
No,
You're
but
going
they're
to mess up. So
Yeah.
why not
so
mess up on a small deal?
with small money, with small cash.
They're so vain. They're so vain. I can't believe it. One of our former ex-partners, I'm a real estate investor. So how many properties? I have owned 3 homes. I said, did you live in them? Yes, I'm a professional. Anyway,
What would you say to that, Russell?
You can't talk to idiots. Anyway, so Russell, welcome to the program. Russell Gray, real estate guy, radio host.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a little bit different than Robert Helms because I didn't grow up in a real estate family. I did buy my first property when I was 19, so
Wow.
I beat you there.
Wow.
Yeah.
First rental property when I was 24. But what I really am famous for is being the king of mistakes. And
Well, aren't we all?
You can't be the king. I'm the queen.
I don't know. I've made
Robert's
a
pretty
lot of
big.
mistakes, and I think probably the biggest mistake that I made along the way, besides selling properties, not realizing that I should have been collecting them. So I was excited about the equity, and then I wanted to put the equity into business, and I didn't know how to keep things separate. But I think the biggest thing for me talking about vanity is that I always thought I was smart enough to figure things out.
Yeah.
And instead of now that I've had a chance to be around many, many successful people, the one of the common denominators that I see about really successful people is they're humble. They ask for help, they ask questions, they listen intently, and then they think about what was said and they trust their own judgment. And I was none of those things. And so because of that, I made a lot of mistakes. But I learned, I think I've learned, and we're obviously doing things better now.
I would say for Kim and I, we've never lost money in real estate, but we have made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
And our mistakes haven't really come from our side of it necessarily. It came because we trusted people.
Yeah.
And every realist, I think the humility of it all, the humbleness, is anybody who's successful in anything has been, the scientific term for fornications. I got screwed. Everybody has been screwed. And when you get screwed, I tell you, it's, I trusted him or her. How could they have done that to me? Have you had that, Robert?
Oh, my gosh. The show's not long enough to go into that story. But we have. And it's not just on the transaction side. I see the same thing on the education side. They lead you down a path.
Oh, yeah.
People that may or may not have any experience, that doesn't matter. They can flash the checks in the front of the room. That's how you know when you start seeing check after check after check in the PowerPoint presentation. I say, how do you get a check? Here's a check for $50,000 from the title company. Well, you know what? If I deposit $50,000 in the title company and say I've changed my mind, what do? They send me a check in my name from the title company. So those aren't hard to get, right? But it's such a good point. And trust is a thing that takes time to build.
Yeah. But
That's
no,
one of the big
it's
challenges.
called, are they good people?
Yeah, what a
As Trump
shortcut
would
that
say,
is.
are you a good person? Is he a good person?
I think that's one of our key lessons has been oftentimes we
Trust it
trust,
too
but
early.
we don't verify. So when I take my eye off the game and off the numbers, and all of a sudden I'm over trusting and giving too much responsibility, and then it comes back to bite me. So that's a lesson I'm trusting. I've now learned this lesson that I will continue to trust, but I will verify.
It's so critical.
Yeah.
So Russell, you amaze me because you're one of the smartest guys I know. Academically, your mind is like a little computer. But you didn't finish college, did you?
No, I was too impatient. I'd been raised by a man that had dropped out of college. Smart. He got a scholarship, free ride to Stanford. Very smart man. But I think I came along and I kind of screwed things up for him. So he and my mom dropped out and he went into work. But in his late 30s, he started a high-tech company in Silicon Valley, took it public. And it was right about that time as I was watching his career. And I just felt like I tried college and I played 1 quarter of football. And then, I just wanted to get married. So I started a business and bought a house, got married. I did all that by the time I was 19. Oh. And then I sold out of the business and I sold the property and I discovered equity. I found out that I made more money in the equity on the business and the property than I did in actually both my wife and I working full time for that same period of time. So that kind of got the bug there. And I think the advantage that I had because I didn't have the patience to go to school was that I always felt disadvantaged. So I became a voracious student. And
right, you're amazing. I mean, when I need to know something, I call Russell.
Yeah.
I read all the time. I study. I like to listen to smart people. In the beginning, I was afraid to get into conversations, and over time, in fact, it was at one of your events, Robert. I ended up seated next to Richard Duncan, PhD economist.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I've told this story on our show several times, and I'd gotten destroyed in 2008, and it was because of my ignorance of what was going on in the bond market. I didn't understand the bond market. You did the gold and
gold versus the U.S. dollar.
Gold versus U.S. dollar event here in Scottsdale, and I ended up seated with Richard, and he was saying that he thought oil was going to go to $5 a barrel and gold was going to go to $5,000, and I said, I'm way out of my league here, but I can understand how either one of those things can happen, but I'm struggling to understand how they both happen at the same time. And he looked at me and he goes, "That's a good point." And I was like, wow, I just made a good point to this really smart guy. But what it did, it gave me the courage to get into conversations. Yeah, and from that point on, I learned a lot faster because I wasn't afraid to talk to smart people. Right.
So Kim, how about you? I mean, what is your path? When Kim and I meet people, they actually jump into real estate. I want to just get some handcuffs and tie them down and say, look, wake up first, right?
Yeah, well, it's the same as Robert's saying. I mean, I started with a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, and then we went to another single family. It was a process. There is no get rich quick. There's just not. If they're telling you can get rich quick in real estate, I would run. I mean, it's been a process. The formula is the same for the 2-bedroom, 1-bath house and for the 200-unit apartment building. The formula is the same. But it takes time. It takes making mistakes. It has, we've made all the mistakes as you guys have. The tenant moves out. I raise the rent. I raise it too far, and then nobody rents.
Or how about the tenant that moved out with all of our appliances?
Yeah, we had that. We also had
the piping.
We had a property manager who started his own business on our credit card from our apartment building and bought microwaves and ovens and tools and started selling them. And I mean, we had all sorts of things happen. We've had tenants move out in the middle of the night. Oh my gosh, yeah. But it's a process, and that's why we can all continue to keep investing and keep buying real estate, because we've made all these mistakes, and we have a whole thing of a bag of tricks that we can pull from when we need.
So when we come back, we're talking. This is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. We love real estate. We've made fortunes at it, all of it. But there's a lot of bad news that went right behind of it. And again, every time I see these idiots who just jump right in and they bet all their money, they're going to get hammered. And the reason I say that is we're going to talk about next, how do you know the bubble is about to burst? The end is near. Because we're old enough to have seen the booms and the busts. And I think we're cruising up to one of the biggest busts in world history. So stay tuned. Once again, this is the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Our guests are Robert Helms and Russell Gray, co-hosts of the Real Estate Guys Radio Show, and also their Summit at Sea Real Estate Guys Cruise, which I highly recommend if you're really dedicated to learning and not flipping and flopping all over the place. So when we come back, we'll be talking about a lot of things, but I want you guys to think of something in the break. What is the biggest BS, blue sky pitch you've ever seen? Because we've seen them all. These guys get up there. These guys get up there. They're generally a very attractive or good-looking husband and wife and all this. And the suckers float in with checks and credit cards. It's such BS. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And once again, that's Carly Simon's song, You're So Vain. And I'm talking to all you wannabe real estate investors out there. I play this song because I meet so many people who are so vain. You know, oh, real estate, yeah, I made some money and I'm just going to jump right in. The other guy that gets me is a person who says, you know, I say, how many courses have you taken in real estate investing? They go, I have a real estate license. Well, that means you're an idiot. That's all it means to me. What does real estate license have to do with real estate investing? Zero. I mean, I can't believe how vain these guys are. You know that most real estate agents own nothing, and they're giving you advice on investing? So that's why I'm really glad we're having this program. Our guests today are Robert Helms, Russell Gray, the Real Estate Guys radio show. Please tune into their show because they're more specifically on the professional real estate investor. And once again, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio Show anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Androids, and all our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because we're only an education company. We have nothing to sell, and that means we're education. If you listen to this program one more time or two more times, you'll be twice as smart as you'll listen to us one time. But most importantly, friends, family, and business associates, and especially that idiot brother-in-law of yours who thinks they're going to jump in and invest in real estate because the market is hot, you're about to get hammered. So it's I'm enjoying the show because it's the dark side of our business. Any comments, Kim?
Well, I just think it's interesting, and I love having Robert and Russell here because they are the real deal, and they are the real estate guys, and they are practicing what they preach. They've been investing since they were 19 and 23 years old, so they know what they're doing. But I was just looking at this article. And I'm like, where does this advice come from? So they're talking about if a recession comes and if there's a dip in the real estate market or the recession comes, what should you do? Well, here's advice. Well, if you own property or assets, sell some so that you have cash. Okay, how hard is it to find a cash-flowing property, Robert? How hard is it?
Oh, my God.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's getting harder, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the keys. This is such an important topic because if you think we're near the top, there are things you can do, but it's probably not the stuff you're going to read in most articles written by a journalist that makes $3,200 a week.
But why would you sell when interest rates are near zero?
I think that the big thing is how people approach the problem. And this is where you guys at Rich Dad have really been thought leaders because most people look at investing as trading. Yes. Buy low, sell high.
Exactly.
They've been conditioned to buy low, sell high. That produces commissions for the brokers. That produces capital gains for the tax man. And it produces cash that feeds the bankers. And so the education has been slanted. And it's Wall Street education, but people approach real estate the same way. You have a completely different approach, which is a more fundamental approach, which is the income. And if you focus on the income, you have staying power. You can ride the ups and downs. The price doesn't matter. What matters is the cash flow. And as long as it's positive, you're in. And over the long term, even just the pay down of the loan and modest inflation will build reliable, resilient wealth. But people don't think that way.
Well, it's called structured finance that we control.
Yeah,
that's why I like it.
I mean, even in 2008, when the whole thing came crashing down, we were fine. We were fine. We took, there was little dips because people couldn't afford some of the rents, and so there were some dips. But we were okay. It still cash flowed. We didn't have this major problem.
Let's get into the fun part, the most stupid things. See, I think we're in a massive bubble right now, and commercial real estate funded by private equity is going to be the biggest hit. Like Australia, I think they have 12 million cranes in the sky right now.
It's crazy.
I walk up and down Arizona. There's cranes all over the place.
Look at Phoenix. Every single postage stamp of land is being built upon right now.
And it's commercial. It's not a single family, a little guy building a little rental property.
Right.
These are very big projects funded by low interest rates. And I understand the game. But just before the bubble bursts is when all the fruits and fruitcakes the fruit flies come flying out there. So what is one of the worst? Like 2007 was a great time because you all know it was going to come down because everybody was into flipping real estate, right? So what was one of the worst things you saw, Robert, during that period, just before the crash of 2008?
Well, Russell, remember this. We were at an event, and there was a guy on stage guaranteeing, that's the word he
that's
used.
The word.
I guarantee this property will go up in value. We looked at each other and that's a problem.
Yep.
I remember you talking about how when the gal at the checkout counter at the grocery store is giving you real estate advice, you know it's too late.
Well,
Right?
she's just got a real estate license.
Well, that's a clue.
That's a clue.
Or when people couldn't afford a $600 a month rent, but they could go down the street and buy a $300,000 house for nothing down and no
Crazy.
qualifying.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And we're there right now. Russell, what's one of the worst pitches you saw, or the most interesting pitches, should I say?
Well, I think that you had people, remember the days in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah, these condo developers, and you would literally stand in line for the right to buy a
Yes.
property that was overpriced,
Yes.
and you would get in and you'd make your deposit, and the entire game was to control as many of those units as you could with the idea that down the road, even later in the same day, you could flip out of it and make money because of the way these things were being rolled out. And so it was all predicated around this insane demand that had no basis in fundamentals or common sense, but it was like a feeding frenzy, and people got so caught up in it, they stopped thinking. They were like animals feeding and trying to get their place in line. And when you start seeing that, and it happens on the lending side too. Lenders become so desperate to loan, they lower the lending guidelines, they raise lower the down payment, raise the LTV. They make it easier and easier to get the loan without providing proper documentation. When you start seeing these things happen in the market, you know that it's this last flurry, like a star that's about to, implode.
And that's in all markets. And like the stock market's I think we're about 2 years out from the stock market doing the same thing. It's just going to get so exciting, and everybody's going to jump.
And
right
are you seeing this happening today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely see it. And the thing is, it can be great because you can take advantage of some of the easy lending to excess equity. You don't have to sell the property to get liquid and be ready for the next thing. But when you do, you just need to make sure you're paying attention to the cash flow. And that's the thing you guys have just been always the thought leaders on.
So, Kim, what's the worst pitch? Yes. Well, we don't have enough time. What's the
Yeah, we
worst?
don't have enough time.
one?
But I do remember those really fat brochures of these new new development. Here's this fancy brochure, and they're going to guarantee you an 8% return on your money, guaranteed. Now I'm like, how do you guarantee an 8% return?
Well, as Kenny says, the bigger the brochure, the worse the deal.
Yep. But
When
they
you
were
see
counting.
nice brochures, run.
And that 8%, they were counting on getting more and more people in to buy so that those people would fund the 8% of the people. So it's kind of a Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
The funniest one I saw is because I'm, the real estate guys, you guys know more about real estate. Kim knows more about real estate than I do. But I do know shipping. So I was down with Trump. This is just before the crash, and this guys had taken an old passenger liner and condo converted.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Wow.
And I go up to this hot young thing, nice brochure, nice hottie, I said, tell me about this. Oh, and she's telling me about how this condo will float through the world and you can get on and get off and all this stuff. And I said, how old is the ship? She didn't know. And I went, my degree is in naval architecture. You see, a ship like those, these big passenger liners, they should only exist for 15 years.
Yeah.
Useful lives are finished. So the only place that boat should have gone was not to a condo conversion. It should have been sailed over to Taiwan and cut up for scrap to made into a new boat. But she was selling these condos, and these guys were lining up to buy condos so they could float around the world. And I said, holy mackerel, there's a sucker born every minute. But my thing is the vanity of it. That's what upsets me.
And the other thing is that people just don't know. They don't know what questions to ask. They have no idea. They just get sucked into the deal and sucked into the
why you
you're going to
gotta
make
educate
money.
them.
Yeah, that's why you need that
How
education.
about our friend Richard Todd?
Oh, my gosh.
He's the
So-
funniest guy. He is the only guy older than you guys as far as friends of the Rich Dad
Yep.
Company. And he got so excited listening to talk about real estate. He says, oh, good, I invested in real estate. And then he comes up and he shows Kim, Kenny McElroy, and I the property.
He says, oh, it's a property in New Mexico. It's in New Mexico. Look at the property. It's in New Mexico, and it's going to be really, really good. And we're looking at it. We go, Richard, that's not New Mexico. That's Mexico.
Close.
So thank God he got out of it. But
wow.
do you know what I mean? That's the vanity of it. They just think they want to get rich quick.
There's no get rich quick.
And let's talk about our favorite guy on TV. I mean, I don't know if we should mention his name, but because we'll get sued by these guys. But he was
No.
a tiny little Vietnamese guy, And this was how many years ago? 20
Oh,
years
many,
ago?
many, many years ago.
At least 30,
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, 80s.
In fact, we met him 15 years ago, long afterwards, in his little tiny office in Las Vegas. But he was the guy there for 15 minutes.
He'd be on his yacht with all his pretty
All the
women,
pretty girls.
the
If I
gold
can do it,
champagne glasses,
you can do it, yeah.
dancing.
This little Asian
yeah.
guy with, models and girls who are twice as tall as him and were built like, in little bikinis. And here he is on this yacht pitching a real estate deal.
Yep.
I kind of wondered who showed up at that seminar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, though, you're making a great point about how to recognize a bad deal. When someone has to hype you up on getting rich and this extravagant lifestyles of the rich and famous, they're not talking about the fundamentals of the deal, the fundamentals of the market, what's going on in the economy. All that's boring. I totally get it, right? But if that's what they're relying on to get you to do the deal, they're trying to get you to an emotional state where your
Yes.
brain checks out and you will sign on the dotted line, dreaming, hoping about something that isn't real and not looking at what is real and you should be paying attention
And that's
to.
why you've got to get the financial education. You got to start small, take baby steps. Know it's a process. It's going to take years, but you can become financially free with cash flow. But it's not a quick fix. There's no
like anything. Like you're not going to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
right?
it's the same thing.
If you want to get weight off, it takes time. If you want to be healthier, it takes time. If you want to be wealthy, you can do it. Absolutely. It's just slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
So what kind of programs do you guys put on, the real estate guys?
For years we've taught seminars and things, but we're not really gurus. We're more journalists on our show.
You guys are really fundamental guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, you are.
and I think
Nuts and bolts, peanut and butter.
that's like we don't have a seminar rarely without an attorney that speaks, and that's because you have to have that sobering side. Yes, you can make a lot of money, but there's a lot of work. Our primary thing that we teach now is real estate syndication, how to go bigger, doing
Explain
bigger
what a
deals.
syndication is.
So rather than buy something just in your own account, if you syndicate, you get together with other folks, and some people put in the time and
Other
talent.
people's money.
Other people's money. Some people put in the money. So a passive investor might put $50,000 in a deal, and the syndicator or the sponsor or the promoter is the one who finds the deal, vets the deal, puts together the team. Again, you have to be just as careful as in individual investing, maybe more so.
Yeah.
But there are attorneys involved. It's professional investors usually.
But you also educate the investors, the
Both
people
sides.
that are you're raising money from. You educate them about the deal,
You bet.
the pros, the cons, all of it, because you don't want stupid people giving you money.
That could be the most, as we say, the most expensive check you ever took is one if they don't understand. So you go
Exactly.
through a process to make sure they understand, and you have to make sure it works for them, that it's in line with their goals and with their ability. And so it's not rocket science, but it takes time to figure it out. And there's a lot of legalities around it, right? You're talking about securities laws, but that's not to scare people away. That's to say it's another way that you can, in our world, collapse time frames and be able to build wealth with real estate, passively or actively.
So
the point here, can somebody with absolutely no education show up?
Well, they can show up, but they're not going to do very well until they take the time
No,
to
I
get
understand,
educated
but
about it.
can somebody with no education, you don't have to be already an investor to take your class.
Oh, no.
And that's what I'm getting at. I lost my temper. Believe it or not, I lost my temper.
You?
Shocker.
And there's this friend of mine, and she's been around us since the start. And I said, have you ever gone to a real estate seminar? She goes, no. And all she does is bitch about her student loan debt. And I'm going, it doesn't cost you anything. Just go sit there and well, I got too much debt. And they stay stuck in their past mistakes they made when they were 25 years old signing up for a master's degree. And I don't, that's what I've been saying to a lot. I'm really kind of tired of this. Because if a person's going to be that stuck, then why do I even bother talking to them? Yet that's part of the business, right?
That's it.
Well, especially today because there's so much information available. I mean, there's information everywhere. If you want to learn, you can learn. I'm more or less a self-taught guy, and there's lots of books, there's lots of tapes, there's lots of seminars. And, the best stuff you often have to pay for, but you don't have to pay a lot.
Well, even to that point, when we met Ken McElroy, okay, so we had properties. We had not a lot, maybe 100 units, and most of our properties were like 20 units, 30 units.
Yep.
And I said to Kenny, oh, finally somebody that understands property management, because that's where he came from, was property management. I said, finally somebody that understands our philosophy and our model. And I said, would you please manage our properties? Because I couldn't manage anymore. I was up to my limit. And he looked at me and he said, no, I can't manage your properties because I only manage properties of 100 units or more per building.
Right.
And so that was my impetus to start getting more educated and understand now how to buy a 100-unit apartment building versus a 20. And that's another game.
It is.
Can I tell you my story on that? Because Kenny was, it was kind of cold water on our faces. You guys. He was saying you're small. You're too small.
You're too small.
And that's another slap in the face. You go, holy mackerel. So a few years later, Kim's really the guru on the real estate side of our family.
Yes.
And she's taking the thing bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm walking through Phoenix Airport. This woman comes running up to me. She says, I've got this really hot deal. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Chandler. She says, I want you to invest in it. And I just froze like a deer in headlights because I didn't want to bust. So finally I said, I'm sorry, but I don't. She says, I thought you were a real estate guy. I thought you were a real estate. She got so livid because I wouldn't look at a small deal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I said, I don't have time to do a small deal. Now, 30 years ago, I had all the time in the world. And that's another lesson, whereas we see other guys who jump in, they do these mega deals. They haven't done a small deal yet, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like the cash flow game. You watch the behavior on the cash flow game, and they have a little bit of money, and they go for the big deal.
Yep.
They pick the big deal card, not the small deal.
You're so vain. You're so vain.
I think men do that more than women, actually. But
that's true. Women are better at real estate.
Women
in
are
so
pretty
many
pragmatic.
Ways.
They're pretty pragmatic. They want that cash flow, that bottom line.
They're also good with the gut check.
Yeah.
Right back to the people out there that aren't as scrupulous, and there's a lot of those folks out there. But you can kind of sniff them out. Eventually you'll figure it out.
Okay. So we come back. We're going to bypass Ask Robert because we have the two smartest guys I know in real estate, Russell Gray and Robert Helms, hosts of the Real Estate Guys radio show. They also do seminars, but they're elevated to the good guys. Are they good people? And that's what Trump said to me. Are they good people?
And their website is realestateguysradio.com. Realestateguysradio.com.
And so when we come back, we'll be talking about the opportunities we see in the future and what does your crystal ball say. So when we come back, for all of those of you, even if you don't have any real estate yet, your time is coming because in the next crash is when you get rich. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Once again, that song is You're So Vain, and we are talking about you and me and everybody else. Everybody wants to get rich quick, and they don't want to pay the price. And once again, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio Show anytime and anywhere on iTunes or Androids, and all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because if you listen to this program again, you'll learn even more, especially if you're sick and tired of just doing nothing. I'm sick and tired of people like that. I mean, I say, I don't got time. I lost some money. We've all lost money.
They want the quick answer. They want the quick fix.
Yeah, and so they watch these TV shows, and there's a new guy on TV. I think he's kind of funny, but he's a new guy. He's
a new guy.
He's going to suck in.
Same message.
He's going to suck in.
New guy,
There's
same
always
message.
A new guy.
Same
and now
formula.
they got so many TV shows with Flip the House. Everybody's making millions quick and all this. And it's about to come to an end. So once again, listen to the Real Estate Guys, Robert Helms, the Real Estate Guys Show, realestateguysradio.com, and you have your Summit at Sea, which I go to because it's an intense 5 to 6 day immersion into real estate investors, not these show guys. So anyway, we're going to talk about what you see coming in the future. So Kim, what do you see coming in the future?
Well, we're actually working on something that we see coming in the future, and that's senior housing. And because we have all these baby boomers that are getting older and older and they're going to need assisted living, so we're actually working on a project right now that we're taking it's kind of interesting. It's going from a fitness club, which was the baby boomers, drove the fitness club trend. And now we're tearing that down and we're going to build senior housing. So same customer, just a little older.
Well, Robert Helms and I were at was it Gene Garino's?
Gene Garino's residential assisted living event, yep.
For those of you who want to learn about the biggest boom coming, which is old guy housing, and they invited me on stage, and I said, well, the person that should be here is Kim. The only reason she's in assisted living is she wants to make sure there's a place that'll take me. They don't let belligerent, cranky old men in there, you know. So please look at what's Gene's website or handle?
So the easiest way to reach Gene probably is send an email, right?
Yeah. So I guess it would be ALF, Assisted Living Facilities at realestateguysradio.com, and we'll send you information about Gene and a
got a
webinar,
webinar he
free
does.
webinar you can
That's
see.
that's our specialty, and you guys have done it really successfully in hotels of all things, right?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because it's the
Belize.
same in Belize is the same client. We talk about ways you can market to the affluent. Part of that's because there's less worry in case of a recession because the affluent still go on vacation. They're going to still pay for mom to be in assisted living. Right? There's certain areas in real estate. We saw this in the last downturn. In the market we're in Belize, the whole Caribbean was down 20% in tourism in 2009, but Belize was down 1.8%. And so what happens in assisted living is it's really not the occupant that is your client. It's their
It's
kids.
their family,
right?
yes,
And
yes.
so what Gene teaches is rather than just pick any assisted living, you cater to a little higher clientele because they have the budget to do it. For us in resorts, it's the same thing. The multiples are good. You know, for us, it's finding a market that makes sense, where the trajectory is correct, where the systems are good. That's why we affiliate with a big brand. But we didn't start there, right? We started with little houses, and little by little, you build up your education. And today, with the market changing, I think we all feel the change coming. You have to pay even more attention to what you're investing in.
Yes, yes. So, Russell, what trends do you see coming?
Wait, 1 second. Could you give a plug for your Belize property?
Well, absolutely. We don't even talk about that on our show, but on your show, we'll tell you that if you want to go down to
It's
Belize.
a beautiful property. Every time I go down there, I go, "Why are you guys here?" But I understand. It was a mind-numbing project, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's a lot of years, a lot of great investors behind us, but it's called Mahogany Bay Village. It's in Ambergris Key, Belize, and mahoganybayvillage.com. You can learn all about it.
Yeah, I see it come out of nothing. It
Yeah.
was a mangrove swamp, and now it's this beautiful.
You guys were there when there was nothing there but a couple old concrete houses. and
I think that's the beauty of real estate. You can actually see it where the stock, all you see is this ticker. You know, I mean, you don't see anything. But real estate is much harder than stocks. I would say 1,000 times harder.
Oh yeah.
But your problems are bigger and your liabilities are bigger.
Yeah,
So-
that's why you don't want to jump into a big deal right away.
No.
Get that experienced
Yep.
resume. Get
Yep.
that ballast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and get the right relationships because you're not going to know everything. You know, you learned a lot working with Kenny,
Yep.
Craig.
Yep.
You know, you get the right people.
Yep.
You know, Robert and I knew that we needed somebody smarter than us, and that's where Beth came from, right? So I think coming back to the question of, you know, what do we see in the
What's
future?
your crystal ball,
Yeah.
Russell?
So, you know, I think that it's safe to say maybe interest rates continue to go down, but that's kind of hard. They're pretty low, which means that there's a greater possibility they would go up rather than down. If, you know, trying to save that, we end up printing a lot of money. That could end up meaning things that are core components like commodities and energy would go up. The point of that is, as what's been going on for a long time, the poor or the middle class are going to continue to be stressed. So if your customer is that working class person in a rental property, and that's what a lot of tenants are, you want to make sure you're in marketplaces and product niches and price points where there's still people above you. So in tough times, they can come down to where you are.
Yeah.
The other thing is, of course, we just talked about, is having some type of an offering that caters to people who actually will have money, do have money, and are going to be in a better position to weather the storm. You know, because you don't really have to prepare for good times. In good times, everything goes up. Everything is good in good times. What you really have to do is be prepared for bad times. And if they don't come, it's better to be prepared and not have bad times than to have bad times and not be prepared.
And it's a good point because we do not invest in high-end apartments because if there's a crash, they're all going to move out to less expensive,
exactly.
right? So we're always middle of the road.
Yep.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Be just slightly under median, what we call recession resistant. So people still, it's one of the charts we use in our presentations is great. And you alluded to this earlier, Kim. It was this big downturn in real estate prices in 2008 and 9,
God bless it.
but not the rents.
Yeah, the rents.
The rents stayed
Yeah, they
pretty
did.
good. A
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit of
yeah.
a dip, but
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a big clue.
So once again, you know, the beautiful thing that you guys did was you co-branded, right, in Mahogany Bay. Who'd you co-brand with?
With one of the largest hotel companies in the world, Hilton. We're a Curio by Hilton. That's one of the Hilton's 15 brands, and it gives us all kinds of great stuff. Not only access to 72 million Hilton Honor members, but also just systems and training and technique and things we surely didn't know. And it's a boutique market. We're the first branded hotel in our marketplace, and we just thought, you know, these are people that know what they're doing. They understand hospitality. We've learned a lot about it, but we certainly don't know as much as them, and it's been great. Part of it is real estate investors are mavericks, right? We're those lone wolves, and Hilton's a huge corporation. So it's a love-hate relationship. They move slowly, but they have so much experience. It's really saved us a ton.
But don't you also have Home and Garden or something? Or
Coastal Living magazine.
Southern Living.
It's so their sister publication. We're one of a handful of coastal living inspired residences, and Coastal Living magazine's been out 20 years now, and it's not a hotel brand, but it really does cater to kind of our avatar, the person who's looking to have that coastal life, and it's been awesome.
Are people still investing with you?
Yep, we are mostly sold out, and that has been a great process. But there's still an opportunity, and I think it's still a good opportunity. One of the things that we have is lifestyle investing, we call it. So a lot of folks who will, spend a few weeks or a few months down there, and they can certainly do that. And then when they decide not to do that, it's in the rental program,
of the hotel.
Of the hotel.
One thing I think that's important on that note, excuse me, just one sec, is Robert actually takes people down and shows them the market, not just our project, but all the other projects on the island, because it's really important for somebody who's considering either buying as an end user or as an investor.
Well, that's for any investor. They've got to go to the market where they're
You'd
going to
be amazed
invest.
how many people buy property
without ever seeing it.
Out of state, without ever seeing it.
That makes no sense. So I'm just curious if you've heard about this trend. Everybody wants everything delivered, right? So what we've heard is that warehousing and storage facilities are going to be a big trend coming because everybody wants it delivered to their house.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
I think so. Distribution is huge.
Yeah.
And what happens at distribution is it is this accumulation of resources. So there are some of those industrial and warehouse projects that aren't going to work, or existing projects that get nudged out, but it's a big part of it because there's more and more of that happening. It's the age we live in, and it's not just Amazon. There's a ton of logistics companies, and that's an area that's pretty exciting.
We went to the port in Savannah to look at exactly for that reason.
Yeah.
And actually we found out we were a little late to the party for that port because there was a lot of warehousing being built already.
Sure.
Savannah versus Charleston.
Yes.
But that's a great area because the Panama Canal, which is my world of shipping, Panama Canal, the Chinese are making a huge investment digging a new canal to get through.
Right.
So there's always opportunity, and the most important thing is, do you hang out with the right people, good people? Are they honest? Have they been through the mill?
Are they educated? Are they experienced?
Are they
What's their
humble?
Track record?
Or are they on TV with some hot women, or the little Asian guy with
Jumping
hot
around.
blondes and bikinis? I like that too. But anyway, I would just go to it. I mean, even if it's a little Asian guy with hot blondes and bikinis, I'd go and listen to what he has to say, or she says.
Both sides of the coin, right?
Yep. Go listen.
I'm not against it. You know what I mean? That this new guy coming in from Las Vegas, he's had his own TV show for a while. And he's talking about the same thing. The formula's the same. You'll get rich quick, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as we all know, things do change. So anyway, I want to thank you guys, Robert Helms and Russell Gray, realestateguysradio.com.
Thanks, guys.
And please look into what they're doing because they're the real estate guys. And thank you all for listening to this program. We didn't have Ask Robert because I'd rather have the real guys here. So thank you for listening, and have a good life in real estate. Bye.
à diều đã bóng nắng cháy giữa đồng kỷ niệm yêu thương trong mỗi ngày tiếng ru gọi hãy nhớ biết bao tôi xa quê bao năm tháng qua nhưng trong trái tim không bao giờ xa lời mẹ ru con hiu hiu trẻ mùa lụt nước lũ bắt cá giữa đường biển trời